Take my hand. Will you share this with me? 'Cause stop.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
We have a good weekend?
Yes.
Awesome. How about victories, wins, gratitudes? What do we have?
Taylor cut his hair.
Taylor! Looks good, man.
Slick.
Looks good.
I haven't changed in here.
Yeah. You're still the same old person, right? That's nice. That's good. Don't change. You're a good man. Who else?
I'm grateful for Elevate last week.
Oh, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. That was fun, huh?
Yeah, I'm still trying to unpack it, and I don't know if I'll be able to, but
We thought you were going to come in a robe with shaved head.
right.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean it was profound for me.
Take time to digest.
Yeah.
That's a lot to take in. Evan.
One thing that I pulled out of Elevate is the meditation part of it.
Ah.
That was really substantial. I mean, it's changed my life.
It's awesome.
And also one more thing that I've been kind of grateful for is this thing that you guys are doing, the underground network.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that here in a second. For Summit, you're talking about?
Yeah.
Underground Railroad? Yeah, we'll get into that in a second. Any other wins, gratitudes, victories?
So some of you might remember I moved to St. George.
Yes.
I made a poor decision in January one year. January's a bad month to make decisions. and I sold my house because I anticipated it was at the top of the market. And we've actually been renting for a little over 2 years now. And you know, it's kind of bad for a real estate agent to be renting a place, but you know, I've enjoyed it. I haven't had to go to Home Depot in 2 years. But I was kind of stuck because I write off all my income, and you know, I don't qualify for the home that I want credit-wise because of my income being written off. So, anyways, I hooked up with this investor. He's some like triathlon that invented some kind of bar that he sold shazillions of, and he's got a lot of money that he didn't know what to do with. So I convinced him to finance me on a new home, and we put an offer in. We were trying to find a seller finance deal, and the problem with seller finance is you got to pay them so much to get the deal for them to do it for you, because that's what motivates them. But I became a cash buyer last week, and so
nice.
We hit the ground and scoured and found a sweet little place right over here, just a little closer to the office in
Love it.
Cottonwood. And put an offer in, and Sunday morning my wife came and woke me up, and at 2:30 in the morning the agent sent over the approval. So we made a lowball offer.
Nice.
I didn't think would get accepted, and they took it. And so I got the experience of being a cash buyer. It was awesome.
Love it. Congratulations. That's a big win.
Yeah.
Who else? Wins, victories, gratitudes. All right. Go ahead, Matt.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say the thing that I feel a lot of gratitude for is just our freedom that we have. You know, it's interesting how much we can focus on because we take that for granted. You know, without that, I mean, that would quickly become our biggest priority.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You wake up, you see great weather like this, or just see the freedom, looking up at the mountains, enjoying the view we have here in Utah. I mean, what a great place to be, right? And yes, thanks for reminding us of that. That's really, really important. I appreciate you sharing. Thank you. Who else? Any before we move on, that are just dying inside to share your gratitudes or victories? Yes, Phil.
I have a victory. I'm closing a loan with Rick Bentley today, 11 days early.
Listen to that.
Yeah.
Is that crazy or what?
Yeah.
I mean, serious.
Lunch money?
Man, here's the extraordinary thing about that. Never in the history of working with this guy, with the exception of some really strange scenarios, this was a very regular deal. Are you kidding? It's done. I was terrified of the appraisal and terrified of how this thing was going to end up. And we're closing today. I mean, unbelievable. The clients are so happy, which makes me look like a hero. They can't believe that I put them with such a great lender. So thank you so much. They absolutely love you. I appreciate you sharing that. Anybody top that? Okay, so announcements. George, when's the Everest? When we doing this in California, right?
Yeah, March 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Put it on the calendar. If you can make it out there, just enjoy the sunshine out there.
2.0.
2.0. If you liked the first, buckle up for the second, right? Energy will be coming at you. Interest rates, excellent today. Remember, Summit tomorrow. This is going to be really exciting. Tim Ballard, is he the founder of the Underground Railroad?
Yeah.
Okay, so listen to this guy. He's going to be extraordinary. You don't want to miss Summit this week, so make sure you attend that. Anything I'm missing? Besides Tony Robbins, which we always talk about. Yes, Matt.
Can I say something? So, I've been hesitant to say this in here, but I work with this charity this last year started. It's called Youth Link, and we mentor local students and get them prepared to go to a different country and serve for a couple weeks and teach them a bunch of different skills. Anyways, I'm trying to fundraise for that, so if anybody wants to learn more about that or help contribute, then come talk to me.
Everybody hear that? Okay, make sure you get with him if you're interested. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, am I forgetting anything?
No.
Just remember, role play in the morning at 7 o'clock here. We had a pretty good group today, but if you're feeling like you're a little rusty on some of your skills, some of you who hadn't been in a while did great, but it felt like you shook the cobwebs out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, good job. Appreciate you doing that. So anyway, with that being said, Mr. Morris, come on up.
All right. Good to be with you guys.
Excuse me.
So how many of you attended Elevate? Woo! All right. Wow, most of you. All right, sweet. Outstanding.
Is that a surprise, George?
No.
We're all, I mean,
Not a
how's it
surprise.
going? How's it going last week?
We had a good time, right? Right? I'm not even going to make you turn to your neighbor. I'm not even going to make you do a share in the next 15 minutes. Mix it all up. So I have pages of things we didn't go over.
Wow.
So the good news is that this group, we get to spend a little bit more time together. So we're going to go through some of that. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Yeah. So I know. Actually, I'm just curious, just by a show of hands, just maybe help me here for a minute. We're gonna go through this in our management meeting here coming up here this morning. But what were some of the best parts of that? And I'm going to assume for many of you was the breathing. And then I love what Lindsay did. If you were here on Friday, she followed up with some other priming. In fact, she texted me this morning. She goes, "I'm done priming." And I every day I do that activity every day. I don't care whether it's weekends, business days. I do the priming where you're going up and down. If you weren't doing that, we'll do that maybe even later this week. But any other takeaways? What was some of the better parts of it, Rick?
So, you know what, for me, George, so much of it was just the story, the things that we teach here. But what it did for me is actually got me back to the basics again. And for me, that was important because I get lost in this journey of how can I perfect something next. Taking a breath and getting back was really good for me to just redigest what it is. And it's so important we do that.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. There she is, Miss Judy Forden.
Yeah, Judy!
So, it's fun. I don't know if you guys know this, but I know people probably were in there going, well, I don't know if anybody signed up, but we ended up with actually 14 coaching contracts.
Wow.
Of
Nice.
coaches. Oh, sorry.
17.
Who am I?
17.
I'm a realtor. We just rounded up to 20, Michael. Rounded up to 20. 17. Actually, 17. I'm sorry. Yeah, there we go. So kind of fun to see. So thank you, one, for that. What else? Any other just takeaways? What did you like? Would you like to see more of?
Well, I think for me, just the continued focus on my intention with people, and I say my job is to help people, and I try to remind myself of that, but sometimes it can get lost. And so really just going back to that because it comes out of you,
Right.
You can't help but attract people to you when you really are living that. So.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting how many people came up to me, Timber, and in regards to just simply their belief, I'm a great real estate agent, or I'm a great listing agent, or I believe in me. Just some of these basic statements that seem so basic, but if they really aren't who you are, and you walk into an environment, right, when we talked about certainty and confidence, belief, whatever word, it is that describes that for you, it's just something to really, really consider. I've gotten so many texts over the weekend about this idea of confidence and belief and certainty, and so much of what we do is about that, because I go back to what I've always said is there's not a lot of difference between saying, you know where this script comes from, so when do you plan on moving versus do you have any plans on moving sooner in the near future? And people go, no, it's because you didn't follow script. We all, if any common sense, and if you didn't hear my little bit of passion this weekend, if you were ignoring the 600 views, that I think it's actually like 800 views of this little video. I was so agitated on Saturday about you didn't feel that, and so just so you know, don't block me, or so that, because I'm going to start doing more of those things, but probably maybe a more calmer, easygoing state. But I just get so annoyed when I have stuff that gets sent to me that I just sit there and go, that is a lie. And if you didn't listen to it, it was the whole thing about team building. And you don't have to build a team around listings, but you have to build a team around prospecting. So it's one thing to just shell out leads, and so another thing to say, hey, it's going to be about listings. And I just get so annoyed by lies and no one thinking through. But it goes back to the fact of the people who continue to talk about this stuff have never actually built anything. So the thing is they may have years, if you would say, in regards to the public eye of being in this business, but at the same time, I've been doing this for 25 and a half years. And I've coached thousands of agents, and I built a business where I was doing 100 plus transactions, and I've done all these different things, not as to like sit there and go, oh, hey, look at me, but just from the standpoint of going, can we just, for the love of all humanity, start thinking? And that the fact is that you can show over and over again where there's successful teams that are driven from buyers. And the problem is yes, if I just threw buyers at you and said, hey, good luck, I hope it works out okay, now I don't have to work, well, you're right, that's not going to work either. But here's the good news, that doesn't work in a listing team either. It doesn't matter what your team is. Neither of them are going to work. The fundamental success of every team, if you want to either be on a team, it's not about trying to escape prospecting, it's just trying to be in an environment where you have even more accountability, maybe you have more camaraderie, maybe you have more attention to the details of your everyday event. And then the other side of it is the team leader who thinks like, well, I'm going to be growing a team so I don't have to work. That could not be further from the truth. In fact, I had Dave Parker call me afterwards, and we were texting back and forth, and I think some of you saw that, he's all, preach it, brother, and it was like Leonardo, because, I mean, what am I going to do, sit with Dave and say, hey, I'm sorry that you figured out how to work with lenders, and you figured out how to work buyers, and you hold your people fiercely accountable to prospecting, and that I'm sorry it doesn't really work, and so let's ignore what you've actually done. That is my whole stand in this whole deal, is all the talking heads that have never done anything of any consequence, except they've built a company on the premise of talking about things, not actually having done any of those things. I mean, there's people who are at the top, who are considered the top of the game, who have not maybe sold only 2 homes in their life, their home and the other home they used to live in. I mean, that's the thing that's so crazy to me. It doesn't mean they can't talk about it. Hey, you can talk about anything you want. You want to self-proclaim you as anything? You can be the expert. I sat in a meeting not too long ago where someone said to me, hey, I've watched you. I've watched you enough times, and I think I've kind of figured out what you do, so I'm good. And I'm not exaggerating. That was the conversation. And I said, what? I said, that would be the equivalent of talking to me, or me talking to someone about building a rocket and talking to them enough about building the rocket and then going, check, I now know how to build a rocket. I mean, that's just nonsense. So maybe my message of the week is the one word. Does anybody know what I'm going to say?
Think.
Right. Thank you. Just any other thoughts, takeaways, Ruby?
I just wanted to share through the whole thing. It comes down to, I think you share that practice. No matter what you're doing, what level you're at, you just need practice.
Yeah.
Either it's breathing, either it's mindset, either it's just your lifestyle, your disciplines, patterns. You need to practice.
Yeah. Today I did a daily message. It'll come out in a few days from now, I'm sure, about rituals, patterns, disciplines, ones that serve us. That we're like, man, keep that going. And then on the other side, not keep that going, right? Because it doesn't make any sense.
I love it. With the agents coming in the morning and role play, I mean, no matter how much business they're doing, they're still coming in to practice. Like this morning we had, I think, 8 or 9 people this morning. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And they're still practicing, they're taking notes, and no matter how good they are, they're practicing. And that, I think, makes you strive even more. So I love the whole event and everything that we're doing.
Linz and I were having fun because she was giving me a hard time saying, you were rusty. Did I seem like I was rusty? Matt, did I seem rusty? I actually, you know what, I have to tell you, my worst role play, I think, was with you. Not because of you, because of me. I'll tell you, no matter what, no matter how good you get, you heard me say this, that there's never, ever the perfect presentation. You might think it is. It might be your best presentation, but the moment you say, man, I have arrived, you're done. Like you're toast. All you're going to do is go backwards because your growth stopped. I mean, that's what's so critical is that you have to raise your standards every single day because, and even though it's probably overused, but it's because it's true, is that growth equals happiness. You know, you want to be happy, you got to be growing, man. Not this way. Just so I'm taking. I don't see anybody going, oh, I'm really happy, I'm growing. Right? But I'm talking like growing your mindset, your belief system, your confidence, and what you believe in. So I thought, did you raise your hand, Taylor?
No, but I did enjoy 2 things: your passion and like your energy. Like you were just so.
I thought you were gonna say you like the skinny jeans.
I did. That was my second one.
All right, that was number 3. All right, just check it.
And I did tag you on Instagram on a. But the second thing is, I love the panels. I love them.
Yeah.
And you got like all different levels of heavy hitters in there. So
We did.
I loved it.
Cool. Evan, and then we'll roll with these things. We're gonna go. Go ahead.
One thing that I'd like to see is with those heavy hitters, with those big agents, I'd like to see a role play at the table when they're doing their.
That's a great idea. I love that. So either maybe some objection handlers to their presentation to.
Yeah, their presentation up there, their real presentation. With
Yeah.
You as
Key word you just said there, the real presentation. That's also my hot button is that you go behind the scenes and then you say, so do you really do that? Oh no, I'm just doing that because I'm in front of this crowd. That does not fly for me. Like, do what you really do, which I know some of you heard that those 6 points of the outline. We'll get more into that, but man, there should be no one in here that does not like own their presentation from a buying side and a selling side. Own it. Okay, any other thoughts? Jeff?
I just want to say, I like what you said about ego. I think the ego gets in the way a lot of even building fear within you. And Colton followed it up with, we all laughed about looking up other agents on the MLS and seeing what kind of business they've done.
The classic was the Range Rover comment. By
Yeah.
the way. Oh my word. Doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah.
You may have been one of the offended ones, but my favorite is I had so many people say, did anyone come to you and tell you they were offended? Anyone come to you and tell you they were offended? And actually, now you may come today and tell me you're offended, but just so you know, at this point, no one has come to me and tell me that they were offended, which which I think is always fascinating, is how easily, like a lot less judgmental, a lot more curious.
I think in the beginning he was judged a little bit, but by the time the message was delivered, it was forgiven.
This is how it went with Kenzie and Jennifer. I turn my back on you. As soon as he said the first one, they went. And Jennifer had their glasses on, and I remember going, yep. Yep, there we go. But then my favorite part is the fact that she stood up and had some of the biggest impact in the room for herself personally, for her mother committing suicide when she was 5, which you would never wish that upon a single human being. Her dad drinking himself to death just before she was born with liver cirrhosis, and the abusive relationship she had with her father, and then her mother committing suicide at 5. And look, everyone will have their reasons. Again, there's going to be all these reasons why you can tell people that you are justified in your positions. I don't care who you are. And people are going to go, yeah, I get it. But how you respond is what changes the course of your whole life, right? How you respond to the tragedy. And if you don't think you have control over that, that's the problem. Most people think, I don't have, you do too. That's never been taken away from any of you, the ability to react, whatever way you choose to react. Whether it be in the presentations, with buyers, sellers, on the calls, in your life, at your home, you have a choice. Here's a thought for you. The level of anxiety that you're willing to take on will always be the level of growth that you will have. The level of anxiety you can take on will always be in direct proportion to the growth that you take. And if you can't handle high levels of anxiety, you rarely will grow. It's almost impossible. Because anxiety is all of a sudden, can you bust through? You think, oh, I can only go this far. Can I get to the next level? If you're able to embrace the anxiety, the stress, the fear, maneuver yourself through it, negotiate yourself through that. But you can. You can negotiate your way through that. Your mind, your heart, have others help you, and bust through it. Because the level of anxiety, we all have it. It all exists. It is just another word for fear, right? We can cloak it however we choose to. Your thoughts? I can just tell that Lindsay is like, I have to. That's why I said any other thoughts. Because go ahead, Lindsay, then Matt.
So I've been listening to Fanatical Prospecting over again, and if you guys haven't listened to it, I think all agents should at least re-listen to chapter 15 over and over again. And even this morning, he was just talking to, right, like this sales team that he had gone and talked to. And he said that one of the top salespeople said, I'm better face-to-face. And I just thought about the agents who say, I'm better door knocking, right? And that's essentially what he was talking to, is this lady says, I'm better door knocking. And he goes, yeah, you only hit 26 doors at best in contacts, right? And then goes on to talk about how we've hired you to do it over the phone because you have to face your
fear, anxiety,
right?
Whatever words.
Because he says you will, over and over again, 20% more contacts over the phone. And I think it's just interesting how many people will neglect and this is what he was talking about, learning the words, the dialogues, the scripts, the things that they need to learn and master on the phone, just so that they can go out face to face. And he says, and you've said this over and over again, and I've heard you say it, essentially the same thing of what you're saying. The level of rejection you're willing to accept is the level of income you're willing to make.
They go hand in hand.
And he just said that of course you're going to get rejected on the phone more than you're going to get rejected face to face. You're going to hit more numbers.
Mm-hmm. And it's more challenge of getting connected, right? So more rejection.
Yeah. So
level of your desire. I mean, there's all these little things. The higher your desire, the higher your discipline. The higher the rejection that you can sustain, the higher your income. I mean, these things, like all these things go hand in hand.
The thing that I loved that he said that was kind of an aha to me is he said, why not learn the rejection quicker on the phone than doing it face to face?
Yeah.
And it's so true. It gave me a little flip to it where it's like, okay, yeah, I can get more rejection on the phone quicker, learn the objections faster, learn it quicker, but yet we all will face that belief that door knocking or being face to face is better.
Yeah. Well, and all it is, right, it's the management of the story. So you get rejected, and once you're rejected, I sometimes used to just go, yes, I'm one step closer to a yes. Some of you are like, oh my gosh, they said no. What am I going to do? I don't know if I can do this one more time. No, okay, I can't do this. I better door knock. I mean, it's just fascinating what we go through within our head. Okay.
Yeah, I actually was just thinking this weekend about the coaches that we have in the ESS program.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just so excited about that. There's so much diversity there. And, I mean, what other group has that level of diversity? And
yeah.
I mean, every single person there has a total different business in my mind, at least.
Well, they're I don't know of anyone's that are the same.
Yeah, and I was
they're so uniquely different. The closest I would actually say, this is what's in my mind. The closest would be Dave and Austin are very similar. Yeah. Beyond that, I'm just thinking about all of them. They are so all radically different the way that they're approaching it, but all of them making a ton of money.
And even you would even argue with Austin and Dave that, I mean, they come from total different backgrounds and total different years in the business too.
Oh, big time.
And so anyways, I was just thinking about how diverse that is and how much you can learn. I come from such a closed-minded background in this business, what success is, and I'm so excited to learn so much from all those coaches.
Yeah, it's going to be good. In fact, we start, just so you guys know, we have our coaches training now every Monday at 4 p.m. We're doing a coaches training where for 45 minutes to an hour every week I'm actually coaching the coaches and moving them through that process so that they can obviously duplicate it for other people's lives. So it's great. Okay, any other thoughts?
I'll be fast.
Okay.
I love the idea of just remembering
John, you know, Jeff just said right.
I'm gonna fight all of you afterwards.
Go ahead.
Jason's over here saying the same thing. You're making it long. So I love the idea of just remembering to focus on controlling the things that you can control, because we get so focused on all the things we
Yes.
can't. And this weekend, my daughter had a basketball game. She's 10 years old. She's really growing in like her competitiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And they really should have won the game, but there was a missed score. And she came home and she got really pissed off and she started crying. And I just like held her and said, "Look, you know in your heart you won the game. So what can you control? You know." And she's, you know, if you've met her, she's Spitfire, and she likes to use that as an excuse to kind of rage, anger. So just working with that and asking her questions and letting her self-discover. And she came down really quickly from like, I'm so pissed off, I'm crying, we should have won that game, to like, okay, I can't control that, but I do know in my heart what I can control. And so just using those techniques in my real life.
You know, though, Timber, it's so spot on with what you're saying, so thank you. And that is, just remember, like, think about on the last day, those of you who attended, where I demanded an answer from the role plays and the clients. You remember that? And then what was more interesting to even that, to me, was Colton then came in, and you think he was demanding an answer? Like a freaking psycho freight train insane man. But he was not going to let you off the hook without answering the question. So whether, I mean, I don't, you know, obviously in most cases you don't have to be to that level, but it really helps you see how important it is, whether it's a 10-year-old child or whether it's a 10-year-old client, literally, that you've known for 10 years. It doesn't matter. You have to demand the answers of these people, because if you don't, then they start controlling the scenario. Just like a teenager who doesn't want to answer their questions, all of a sudden it turns into something completely out of your control because you aren't demanding them to answer the questions. Okay? All right, so let's just go through just a couple of things here, and with the time that we have left. So thank you for your comments, and I'm so grateful for the feedback. Grateful that you guys were there. It was that was a really fun thing. So don't be shocked when you'll start hearing some from me every day on. So if you guys haven't, make sure, for whether you're on Facebook or on Instagram, make sure that you have friended, if whatever you call it, is ESS, Everest Sales System. Because there's a lot of stuff that's going in on there, and although we're trying to maneuver where we're putting it on both, whether it's my personal or whether it's my business profile or also the other side of it on the ESS, make sure that you get there, because so much is going to be posted there and so much content will be there as we move forward. So, all right, with that, so when we were there, we talked about the presentation, but I want to talk about 3 distinct skill sets. Yeah, sets. Something like that. Something like that, right? Here we go.
This is probably more profound.
Okay, so I want to speak to level shifting. I want to speak to pattern interrupts. And I want to speak to transitional statements. Okay? Most of you may know what each one of these are, and if you don't, you should. And I'm going to start with the first one and then come back to the other two. Or the last one, I'm going to start with this last one. So from a transitional statement, for me, a transitional statement is really about being able to get back on track. I used to have so much fear, whether I was working with a buyer, whether I was working with a seller. I had so much fear of getting off script or getting off the mark. And so I would be afraid to have a normal conversation with a human being. I would be afraid to say, hey, how are you doing? Because who knows where that's going to go. Or, hey, tell me a little bit about what you're trying to accomplish, which is like opening up Pandora's box, right? Or just, hey, tell me about what's going on with your family. Again, Pandora's box. And so my point is not that it's a bad thing. It's the good thing that you can have a normal conversation. But you need to make sure you recognize, how do I get back on track? And so the one thing that's universal for me is, let me ask you this. Now, I'm going to use that in a second. I'm going to use it over and over again in just a moment. But what you're going to see is that that's always how I come back to getting back on track. And then I use these statements. And you can use other ones. There's probably 100 of them. But I only think you need a couple of them. So I say this oftentimes. With that being said, okay, so with that being said, what am I going to say next? Let me ask you this, and I'm right back on script. Okay, that's one. Here's the second. Again, whatever works for you, but with that being said, let me ask you this. And then it might be, let me ask you this. What do you expect from the agent you choose? Hey, I don't care what, but getting back on your script, right? And then the second thing is as important as that is. So all of a sudden we talk about someone passing away. We talk about the divorce in their life. We talk about the challenges of the kid. Gosh, you know what? As important as that is, let me ask you this. And I'm right back on script. Well, let me share with you how bad my life is. Da, 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 da. Gosh, wow. Well, as important as that is, let me ask you this. And I'm right back on script. Make sense? Last one, pretty simple one. Let's switch gears. Let's switch gears for a moment. Hey, let's switch gears. Let me ask you. All of a sudden, I'm right back on script. So don't get so freaked out about the fact, like people say, well, where'd you learn that? I learned it because it seemed common sense when I was doing and using a script of some sort in anything. I would be petrified if I got off script because I never knew how to get back on script. And then I'd be like, oh my gosh, I have no control. Well, I started realizing, wow, if I just said, well, with that being said, let me ask you this. Well, as important as that is, let me ask you this. Well, gosh, you know what? Let's just switch gears for a moment. Let me ask you this. And I get right back on script, right back on point as to where I'm going. Any thoughts, questions, comments to that? Right? Make sense? This is the best stuff when you're really trying to argue with your kids. I'm just kidding. Right? They want to talk about anything but what you want to talk about. And you'll say, as important as that is, Kenzie, let me ask you this. Can you please help me understand why you did not clean your room? Just kidding. All right? We don't ask that anymore, right? She makes her bed and has her room clean all the time. All right. Make sense? Simple stuff. It's not complicated. I get it. And it shouldn't be complicated because it should be simple. It should be easy to use. It shouldn't be like, oh my gosh. I mean, you may have forgotten about this, but if you find your presentations are, 18 hours long, 2 hours long, 3 hours long, it's most likely because you aren't directing the traffic of where you're going. So get back on track. Okay? We got just a minute longer, but on the pattern interrupts, what this really is about, I want to point out just one thing, and we're going to talk more about this later this week, but let's just put pattern interrupts. And I'm going to put this one. Be mad with them, not at them. There's a really important thing to breaking patterns. Be mad with them, not at them. I hate real estate agents, they say. You say you hate real estate agents. That's great. You and I have something in common. Just making sure you heard what I said. Right? You and I have something in common. You know what? There's so many of them I can't stand either. And then I'm going to say things like this. This is not working very well here. Let's see if we can get the oranges doing it. I'd be upset too. I do not blame you. Boy, I'd be upset too. Man, I got to bet that's been hard. I'd be frustrated. I'd be angry. I'd be ticked off. I don't blame you one bit. I will always say, I don't blame you for basically being upset. There's more things. There's more things this pattern are up, and I mean, this is like point 1. Now let's just do point 2 down here, and that is it's about questions. And write this down because my writing's getting bad. But questions that redirect the focus. Oh, I'm so angry at agents. Oh, man, I'd be angry at them too. Well, you don't understand. I really don't like any agents. I don't like most of them either. I'd be upset as you would. I can feel your frustration. I'd be frustrated too. Hey, so let me ask you, how many bedroom bathrooms are in your home? Well, this year I was upset. I did, but I just want to know, do you have a 2-car garage or a 3-car garage? And it's fascinating when you are not mad at them. All of a sudden they say, I hate agents. They say they hate agents. They don't like agents. They'll never work with an agent. You're like, well, why? How come? Well, don't you realize what we can do for you? We're so great. We walk on water. We are able to turn every single listing into sold. I mean, we start talking about how great we are, how amazing we are, how we want to defend ourselves, how they should think about using an agent, why they should consider using an agent, why I'm the right agent. Stop all that. Just get mad with them, not at them. It's really hard when someone says, I'm really ticked off. Man, you really should be. Well, no, you don't hear me. I'm upset. I know you should be upset. I would be too if I were you. Well, you don't hear that I'm upset? I hear you loud and clear. I cannot believe that this is what's happening. I would be ticked off. And they're going to be like, this guy gets me. He understands where I'm coming from. And I'm telling you, it is that simple, gang. You may say, oh, come on. Be mad with them. Be upset with them. And the key here is not at them. With them. With them.
Just on the echo on that, maybe you're going to add this, but then my point to that after that would be add humor too, because then you diffuse their defensiveness.
Yes.
Right?
I mean, my humor is usually, I have to work with these people all day long. Can you imagine how upset I am? And they usually, right, if they say, I'm never going to work with an agent, I don't blame you one bit. I wouldn't want to either. What? Well, yeah. I mean, I can only imagine how many people have called you. Aren't you upset even more than what you're expressing? Well, yeah, I really am. You should be. Can't believe they're calling you like this. I got to work with these people too. I mean, it's crazy how all of a sudden it's like, well, what's there to be mad about? The thing is you give them no power to argue with you because you're in complete alignment with them. So all of a sudden you broke the pattern. Then you're able to break the pattern by simply being angry, frustrated, mad with them. Then all of a sudden, boom. Hey, so let me ask you, how many bedrooms and bathrooms do you have? And you redirect the focus. The interruption of the pattern. Man, I used to have so much fun with this. I'd say, are you wearing black socks or brown socks? What? Well, I'd say, I'm just trying to break the pattern because you seem really upset. So is it brown or black? You may say, well, that's ridiculous. Well, most of the things we say are ridiculous. So what does that matter? When did that become a constitution to what you say? Right? I'm just my point is that you're breaking patterns. Now you may say, well, why am I breaking it? So you can redirect it. Instead of being angry at agents, let's focus and redirect the energy towards how great their home is, how bad their home is, how frustrated they are their home hasn't sold. Make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
We'll role play this, but you've got to really get this. Like if I'm role playing, was with Matt, I'd be like, I am ticked off. I don't care what you say. I'm not working with you. And I'd want him to come back and go, I get it. I wouldn't want to work with me either if I were you. Empathy, right? If I were you, I'd feel the same way too.
So by the time you talk to them, most likely they talked to several other people and had almost the exact same conversation, right? They learned basically their script and how to get off an agent
absolutely.
phone as quickly as possible.
Yes.
And so that pattern interrupt is so important just because you're basically going to throw off their script of them getting you off the phone, right? So you start yelling. I mean, everybody else is just basically apologetic or gets defensive, and then they end up getting them off the phone, right?
Yeah. Yes.
When you get upset with them, it's like throws them off. They're like, okay, I don't know.
Well, I'm supposed to be mad at you, but I'm not because, well, you're mad with me. And then all of a sudden it's us against the world. We didn't even get into this, but just, guys, the listing presentation, the listing should be divided into two things. I'm just going to put here, choose me, choose the price together. Stop creating adversarial situations. I've told you this is the price, therefore I command you that you shall do so. What are we talking about here? There's no reason it should be adversarial. First and foremost, if you haven't chosen me to sell the home, it doesn't matter what I charge from a commission, and it does not matter what the price is. But once you've chosen me to work with you, then I can say, hey, Gabby, then let's choose a price together. Together, us against the market, instead of me against you. If you will get that down in the listing part, it is us against the market until you choose me. Then I always say, is it safe to assume if we could choose a price? You've heard me say this at the event. I say, is it safe to assume if we could choose a price and a commission that you'd be comfortable with, is it safe to assume that we could work together? Yes! Choose me, then we choose the price together. Okay? I don't care whether it's lending, I don't care whether it's title, I don't care what it is. It is a twofold process. Always is. Okay? Just over here, we'll wrap up. What I hear you saying is, what I believe you're saying. You could use other words. What I hear you say, what I believe, what I see you saying is. Right? If you think they're very visual, then it's see. If you keep hearing words, well, what I see, what I'm, what I think, well, I think I should do this. I think I should do that. So what I think, what do I see, what do I believe? But even at its best, or its worst, if you just simply said, hey, what I hear you saying is. And it could be as simple as, simply, hey, well, what's your commission? You know, that's a great question. You know what? I can tell that you're really a smart guy and you're thinking a lot about that. What I really hear you saying is, what? What am I hearing them really say? Yeah, what I really hear you saying is you want to net more money. That's simple, right? Well, what are you going to do to sell the home? Well, we're going to do a lot of things that we do to sell homes. In fact, we're going to do the same things we've done to sell 5,000 homes across the Wasatch Front. What I think you're saying, what I hear you saying, what I believe you are saying is you just want to ensure that your home is sold for top dollar, correct? Yes. And then I'm going to go back over here, by the way, and I'm going to redirect. And I'm going to use some pattern, or I'm going to use some level. So with that being said, let me ask you. Guys, I'm telling you, this weaving of transitional statements, pattern erupts, and level shifting is a must to effectively close. You have to get this down. And yes, part of it's an art, part of it's a science, as you weave and as you feel, but don't take away what you feel. Make sure that you are level shifting. Make sure you're interrupting inappropriate or bad patterns. And then use these transitional statements to get right back on track. Ken's?
I was just going to say with that particular level shift, it's important that what you hear them saying is actually what they're saying. Yeah. Because if you say something and it's not even what they were saying, so going back to listening, it will decrease your rapport with them.
So give me an example.
Like if you tell me, oh, I'm moving because I'm going to California for a job because maybe you got laid off here first. And I go at you saying, oh, you're going to California, and I don't hear anything about you losing a job, and I just go off of that, then they feel like they're not being understood. And
Sure.
You're repeating something that's not totally correct to them.
Right, so if I was getting into that, right, then we would go back to what we worked on, and this is a good follow-up, but it's what we talked about at Elevate, right, is we talked about at that moment, hey, we're moving, here's a good example, hey, I hear you're moving to California. Is there anything else? And at that point, Matt, what should that person be saying? Because I didn't hear the, hey, we're moving for the job. He's gonna say, she's gonna say what?
That she lost the job.
Oh, you lost the job, or you're getting the new job, whatever, right? But okay, great. So you're moving to California, you have the new job. That's exciting. What am I gonna do again? Is there anything else?
Yeah.
And she may say, well, yeah, I live with my family. That's where I grew up. Wow, that's great. Tell me a little more about that. Oh, I'm moving into this area, moving where I grew up, got some childhood friends. My parents are still there. They're aging. Wow, that's great. So you're moving to California, you're getting the new job, lost your job here, you're going back home, getting with your parents, living near your friends, your childhood friends. How exciting.
Is there anything else?
Is there anything else? Because you may not hear it. She's got brings up a great point. You may not hear. Right? So it's so important that we do this. And look, these are just habits, rituals, disciplines. These are just things that you learn, right? Let's finish this up because we got to roll.
I was just going to say on that one too, specifically, if I have somebody who is in a place of anger or is in a place of ranting, right, is essentially you can sum it up, but I agree with Kenzie, you have to sum exactly what they said to you and then give them. So what I heard you say is really what you're wanting to know from my very bottom line. But oftentimes if they're in that place of anger, I might even say something like, so George, what I heard you say, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, that's just, you're perfect, yes. No, it's perfect.
Could you give them that-
Because you
give
said
them
correct
the
me if I'm wrong, and I
right
actually
feedback?
how I
Could
say
you
she
give
said
them
it.
the
Correct
right
me if I'm wrong, which that's actually I don't say that. That's a takeaway, guys, right there. Hey, correct me if I'm wrong. That's a hey, because everyone want. Hey, I'm confused, right? If I'm wrong, correct me. What does everyone want to do? Someone thinks correct you. Oh, well, let me tell you. I'll tell you the right answer. I mean, it's our ego just. Rah. I gotta tell you, like, let me correct it. But I actually say, just so you know, hold on, just let me say this part. I say, am I missing something? Hey, I may be missing something. I may not have heard everything you had to say. So is there anything I'm missing? Is there, and then how she said it, like, hey, correct me if I'm wrong. I might use both those. Correct me if I'm wrong. I might be missing something. Is there anything else? Maybe I didn't hear everything you're really trying to share with me. Well, you go into a whole other solar system with a client at that level of understanding. That's a whole different level of selling. Say, well, I know you had one last thing. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say too, when you do that, and if they're in that defense mode already, it just naturally brings them down, because if you
Someone
truly listen to what they said, to Kenzie's point, and actually repeated back to them in a nutshell what they said.
What did you say?
Right? Then they
Seems like you're not listening.
Keep going. No, I agree. Keep going.
they actually feel like you're hearing them. And so then, even if you say, correct me if I'm wrong, even if you are wrong, 9 out of 10 times they won't come back at you.
No, and especially, right, hey, correct me if I'm wrong, man, I so want to understand where you're coming from. I may be missing something. Share with me just a little more about that, because I really want to make sure I understand. Make sense? All right, Jeff's ready, man. Let's roll.
Yes, let's
All right. This says Elevate 2.1 right now, man. We're past, oh. Woo! All right, here we go. I succeed because that's one of my goals. I'm an optimist. I like talking to people. I know what's important to me.